What if I told you that locals in Rome never eat dinner before 9 p.m., and this one simple fact could save you hundreds of euros on your trip? Show bustling Roman street at night. While tourists are getting ripped off at 6 p.m., tourist dinners, smart travelers are about to discover the secret world of authentic European experiences that cost half the price. This €3 train trick in Prague will make you feel like you've cracked a secret code that travel companies don't want you to know. Show vintage Prague tram. By the end of this video, you'll have insider knowledge that transforms you from a tourist target into a savvy local navigator. The moment I started grocery shopping like a European grandmother, my daily travel budget dropped from €80 to €25. Show bustling European market. And that's just the beginning of what you're about to learn. Introduction. Here's the thing about traveling Europe like a local. It's not about speaking the language perfectly or knowing every side street. It's about understanding the rhythm of European life and using that knowledge to unlock experiences that are both authentic and incredibly affordable. I'm about to share 7 game-changing strategies that locals use every single day, but tourists completely miss. Show montage of local European scenes. We're talking about cutting your accommodation costs by 70%, eating at the same spots where locals propose to their partners, and getting around cities using transport methods that most guidebooks never mention. But here's what's really exciting. Later in this video, I'll reveal the one European city where locals actually pay tourists to stay overnight. Pause for effect. Trust me, you've never heard of this place. Section 1. The grocery shopping revolution. Let's start with something that completely changed how I experience Europe, shopping like a European grandmother. Why this matters. Europeans have a completely different relationship with food than North Americans. They shop daily, they know their vendors personally, and they eat seasonally. This isn't just cultural, it's economical. What you need to know, every European neighborhood has a golden triangle: the local bakery, the neighborhood butcher, and the family-run grocery store. These aren't tourist spots, they're survival spots for locals living on tight budgets. How to do it? Start your day at the local bakery before 9 a.m. Here's the secret: day-old bread is often 50% off, and European bread stays fresh for days longer than what you're used to. In Vienna, I discovered that local bakeries sell Baker's Choice bags for €3 that would cost €15 at a tourist cafe. But here's something most travelers never realize: European grocery stores have prepared meal sections that rival restaurant quality at 1/3 the price. In Barcelona, I found paella made fresh daily for €4 per portion. The same dish costs €18 2 blocks away in the tourist quarter. Would you believe that in some parts of Germany, grocery stores actually compete to give away free samples? I'm not talking about tiny cheese cubes. I'm talking about full meal tastings that can replace lunch entirely. Section 2. The transportation time warp. Now let's talk about moving around Europe like you actually live there. Why locals travel differently. Europeans view transportation as community infrastructure, not a tourist service. They buy monthly passes, they know the off-peak schedules, and they use transport methods that aren't even marketed to tourists. What you're missing: every major European city has a local transport hierarchy that tourists completely ignore. At the top are the obvious metros and buses. But underneath? That's where the magic happens. How to crack the code. In Prague, locals use vintage trams that cost 24 Czech crowns. That's about €1 for unlimited rides within the city center. These aren't tourist trams, they're working public transport that happens to pass every major attraction. Here's the game changer: many European cities offer resident day passes that tourists can buy if they know to ask. In Amsterdam, the GVB Day Pass costs €8 and includes unlimited trams, buses, and metro rides. Most tourists spend €25 on individual tickets for the same journeys. But wait until you hear about the European city where the local government actually pays for tourist transportation. I'll reveal that secret city later in this video. In Budapest, locals use the historic funicular railway as regular transport. It's 350 forints each way, about €1. Tourists pay 3,500 forints for scenic railway experiences that follow the exact same route. Section 3. The accommodation underground. Let's dive into where locals actually sleep when they travel within Europe. Why local accommodation is different. Europeans have a massive network of informal accommodation sharing that predates Airbnb by decades. We're talking about university dormitories, monastery guesthouses, and cooperative housing networks. What exists beyond hotels? Every major European city has at least 3 types of local accommodation that tourists never discover. First, university dormitories that rent rooms during holidays. Second, cooperative housing networks where locals rent spare rooms to travelers. Third, religious institutions that offer simple accommodations to visitors. How to access this world? Let's start with university dormitories. In Germany, you can stay in actual student residences for 15 to 25 euros per night. In Munich, the Ludwig Maximilians Universität offers summer housing that's cleaner than most hotels and costs 80% less. Here's something incredible. Monastery and convent guesthouses exist across Europe and many welcome non-religious visitors. In Rome, you can stay at actual Vatican-adjacent convents for 35 euros per night, including breakfast. The same location would cost 200 euros at a boutique hotel. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a European housing network that most locals don't even know about. It's called agricultural tourism cooperatives, and in some regions, farmers actually pay travelers to help with seasonal work while providing free accommodation and meals. Think you need to speak the local language to access these places? Wrong. Many operate in English specifically to attract cultural exchange visitors. Section 4. The Dining Time Secret. This is where understanding European rhythm becomes your superpower. Why timing changes everything. Europeans eat according to natural rhythms that have nothing to do with tourist schedules. They eat late, they eat seasonally, and they eat socially. Understanding this unlocks restaurant experiences that tourists never access. What locals know about eating. Every European city has local dining hours that create 2 completely different pricing structures. Show split screen of same restaurant at different times. Tourist hours, 5 to 7 p.m., versus local hours, 8 to 10 p.m., can mean price differences of 50% for identical meals. How to eat like you live there. In Spain, nobody eats dinner before 9 p.m. Show Spanish tapas bar at night. If you arrive at 6 p.m., you're paying tourist prices for tourist portions. But if you arrive at 9:30 p.m., you're getting local prices, local portions, and local atmosphere. Here's the insider trick. Many European restaurants offer pre-theater menus that locals use for special occasions. These are full multi-course meals at 30 to 40% below regular prices, available before 7 p.m. In Paris, you can eat at Michelin-recommended restaurants for 35 euros during these hours. But here's something that will blow your mind. There are European cities where restaurants actually pay locals to bring foreign visitors for authentic cultural exchange dinners. And yes, tourists can access this program if they know how to apply. The lunch secret is even better. Europeans take lunch seriously. 1:30 to 3 p.m. is sacred time. During these hours, many upscale restaurants offer executive menus that are identical to dinner offerings but cost half the price because they're targeting local business people, not tourists. Section 5. The Cultural Exchange Economy. Now we're entering territory that most travel guides never mention, the European cultural exchange economy. Why this exists. Europe has a massive infrastructure designed to facilitate cultural exchange between locals and visitors. This isn't charity, it's a mutual benefit system where locals improve their language skills and cultural knowledge while visitors get authentic experiences at local prices. What's available? Language exchange cafes, cultural conversation groups, local guide cooperatives, and skill-sharing networks exist in every major European city. These aren't tourist activities, they're local community resources that welcome visitors. How to plug into this network? Language exchange cafes are gold mines for authentic local experiences. In Berlin, language cafes happen every night of the week. You show up, you practice German conversation, and locals practice English with you. The cost? Usually just buying a coffee. But here's where it gets really interesting, local guide cooperatives. These are locals who offer neighborhood tours not for money, but for cultural exchange. In Lisbon, the Lisbon Walker cooperative connects visitors with locals who want to practice English while showing off their neighborhoods. Remember that European city where locals actually pay tourists to stay overnight? It's Český Krumlov in the Czech Republic. The local tourism board offers cultural immersion stipends to visitors who stay minimum 5 nights and participate in local cultural activities. They literally pay you €20 per day to experience authentic Czech village life. And that's not the only city doing this. There's a growing movement across Europe where rural communities offer paid cultural exchange programs to combat tourism drain to major cities. Section 6. The Seasonal Insider Advantage. Let's talk about the seasonal secret that separates smart travelers from everyone else. Why seasons matter beyond weather. Europeans live seasonally in ways that dramatically affect pricing, availability, and authenticity of experiences. Understanding European seasonal rhythms unlocks opportunities that don't exist during tourist seasons. What changes seasonally? It's not just hotel prices, everything operates on seasonal European logic. Restaurant menus change completely, cultural events shift to local audiences, and transportation schedules optimize for local needs rather than tourist demand. How to leverage seasonal timing. Shoulder seasons in Europe aren't just cheaper, they're more authentic. October and November in Central Europe mean harvest festivals, local wine tastings, and cultural events designed for locals celebrating the end of summer tourist season. Here's the insider knowledge. Many European cities offer local resident experiences during off-season months specifically to maintain cultural vibrancy when tourists aren't around. In Vienna, winter cultural programs offer the same concerts and exhibitions available during tourist season, but at local pricing and with local audiences. Think off-season means everything's closed? The opposite is true. Off-season is when locals reclaim their cities and create the most authentic cultural experiences of the year. Winter markets across Germany aren't just Christmas tourism. They're centuries-old local traditions where entire communities gather for seasonal celebration. And here's the secret, vendors offer local resident pricing if you speak even basic German and show up when locals shop, weekday afternoons, not weekend tourist hours. Section 7. The Technology Bridge. Finally, let's talk about the apps and platforms that locals actually use, because it's not what you think. Why local technology matters. Locals use completely different apps and platforms than what's marketed to tourists. These local technologies are optimized for residents who need reliable, affordable access to city resources. What locals actually use? Forget the tourist apps. Locals use city-specific transport apps, neighborhood-specific food delivery platforms, and regional social networks that facilitate local connections. How to access local technology. Download the official city transport app for wherever you're visiting. Rome has Muoversi a Roma, Prague has PID Litaka, Barcelona has TMB app. These aren't tourist apps, they're resident apps that offer real-time transport, local pricing, and features that tourist apps don't include. Here's the game changer. Most European cities have resident discount platforms accessible through local apps. In Amsterdam, the iAmsterdam digital platform offers resident pricing on everything from museums to restaurants. Tourists can access this if they register with a local address. Local food platforms like Too Good To Go exist across Europe and offer restaurant surplus food at 70% discounts. This isn't tourist food, this is how local students and budget-conscious residents access high-quality meals from upscale restaurants. So here's what we've discovered. Traveling Europe like a local isn't about pretending to be European. It's about understanding how Europeans actually live, work, and move through their own cities, then respectfully participating in those same systems. From grocery shopping like a European grandmother to accessing the underground accommodation network, from timing your meals with local rhythms to plugging into cultural exchange economies, these aren't travel hacks. These are lifestyle strategies that create authentic experiences while dramatically reducing your costs. And remember, there are over 40 European cities offering some form of cultural exchange compensation program. Next week, I'm revealing the complete list of cities that will actually pay you to experience their authentic local culture. If this opened your eyes to a completely different way of experiencing Europe, hit that subscribe button right now. Culture Cravers exists to reveal the local secrets that transform travelers into cultural insiders. And speaking of cultural insider secrets, click that video right there to discover the European city where locals have been keeping the same restaurant reservation system secret for over 200 years. Trust me, you've never heard this story.